But where we're going to start is actually talking about what's happening in tech at the moment. And we've got Craig Young from TUANZ joining us, who we're going to bring in straight away to have a bit of a chat at the start of the show. And we'd say good morning to you, Craig. Good morning, sir.
Oh, Morena. Pat, great to be here.
Yeah, mate, good to be with you as well. Hopefully you're a tech. Are you a lobby group, advocacy group, information group? How would you describe TUANZ?
We really do two things. One is we're about information, helping people understand what's coming down the track, and particularly our members, because we're a member-based organisation, obviously, which makes us independent. But that also gives us a right, I suppose, to advocate and speak on behalf of users, particularly to government, around, what the issues are.
And has there been, because I started talking about you guys yesterday and looking you up, and for some reason I thought you were the telecommunication users. Did it used to be called that? It's now called tech users?
Well done, Pat. Yeah,
It is,
right at the very
okay.
beginning of
okay.
2020, we were going to change the T to technology, and then COVID came along, so we just sneakily did it. We didn't make a big deal about it. But yeah, because, you've already been talking about it. I talk about the 3 Ts, tech, tele, and telco have all sort of come together. And I mean, look at us. We're doing video over streaming. So
yeah,
it's TV over technology. So yeah, we broadened our horizons.
Only because I talked to the Taxpayers Union earlier this week, and it was important for the context of our conversation to understand who their members were, meaning their members are predominantly, and this was offered to us by the spokesperson, primarily homeowners and primarily in the wealthier bracket, which obviously then influences their advocacy. So I want to ask the same things you with no agenda, just so we understand who are the members of TUANZ when you say, you're speaking sort of on behalf of your members from time to time.
Yeah, it's a fair enough question when you're talking about membership associations. We've got about 170 members, 120 of those are corporates. So we do tend to have a range of those, ranging from the banks, Air New Zealand, universities, the real user base. But, we're not shy of taking money from the telcos or because actually they're tech users as well. So, and I don't think Spark would actually call themselves a telco anymore, but, ranging down to some individuals who are members. So we cover the gambit. We're across the ambit. We're across the board. So, and we're fiercely protective of our independence. So the board are all elected from the members, so they represent a wide range of different types of organisations, but we're quite clear we're independent and we speak on behalf of any and all users of technology and telecommunications.
Okay, we should show people if they want to find out more about you, where to find you. There's your lovely website there, TUANZ 35, 35 years, and so it's tuanz.org.nz. Okay, let's have a chat about a few things. We've sparked off this conversation with you because we wanted to talk about what's happening with Twitter, but also I noticed this morning there's a fairly new headline. Netflix has come out talking about they are going to ditch the password sharing, even though for a good while it was part of their advertising campaign. They were like, we love when people share. That was part of their actual campaign. I don't understand. Maybe you can explain how this group can lose 200,000 subscribers out of 220 million, and that caused the share price to drop by 25%. I mean, I would think purely through attrition, through people dying, through people, moving to an area where they no longer have internet, you'd have movement of hundreds of thousands of users a year. So to lose 200,000 didn't seem to be as serious, perhaps, as would be reflected in their share price drop. Do you got any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I do. I think it's not just those numbers. It is. You're right. It's a small number, but it's the first time in 10 years they've not had positive growth in subscriber numbers for the Netflix streaming service. So suddenly they've gone, and they had predicted a growth. They had predicted a growth in numbers in the first quarter. So they had said, we're going to grow. And then it turns out they lost this 200,000. And now they're forecasting to lose another 2 million. So they're actually saying we're going backwards and we're recognizing it. Some of it they're blaming on the war in the Ukraine. I don't know about that, losing Russian clients and customers, but it's actually a sign of the market. Actually, they were the first on the block. They're not the only one anymore.
I would also think, maybe I don't know the research behind this or anything, but I would have also thought, especially in 2020 when COVID kicked in, they would have got a massive bump. So if this was the housing market, one would look at this and say that might just be a correction for all those people who decided to shut themselves inside for a year, and then okay, let's keep Netflix for the next year, and then there's again natural attrition going away. So I mean, I'm not the person to get advice on this, but it seems that if for an unexplainable reason, or not unexplainable, but unchallengeable reason, you get a significant increase at some stage, then there is going to be a correction at some stage. So I mean, is it really as serious as all of that? Or I mean,
I do think they've got big challenges, because what's happened is they've been attacked at all sides by other providers. So you've got Disney Plus launched, and headed into COVID, perfect timing for them to launch, and they
yeah,
took all the the Marvel. They've taken just the last Marvel Universe movies away from Netflix and relaunched them on Disney Plus. They've got those assets of Star Wars and Disney, just on the Disney Plus platform, and so they're really attacking it from one side. And then you've got, and I can talk about this because, as you can see over this shoulder, I'm a bit of a sci-fi freak.
yeah,
Star Trek. So Star Trek, they had Discovery on Netflix, not Discovery, Star Trek, yeah. And they've taken that off and put it onto Paramount Plus. So these iconic brands that they had, and what happened was then Netflix said, well, we're going to put our money into new content. So they spent billions of dollars on new content. And what's happening now, talking to people, is we're starting to do this dip in and out thing. So when something launches, like Bridgerton, sorry, I don't watch it, but there's lots of people do. Launches on Netflix, people pick up their subscription again, watch it, drop it. And we're going to see this happen a lot more, I think, as these things launch. And so it's going to be, and I think that's why, for example, on Disney Plus, if you are a Star Wars fan, there's this constant renewal of another series. There's another one coming, and then there's another one coming, because they've got to keep you interested. I mean, Netflix, if you look at the stats, are about half of the market globally, so they're a huge player.
Yeah, and they're also doing things that are like they won the Oscar. That was Power of Dog, wasn't it? Won the Oscar this year, and that's a Netflix movie, which of course has consternation within that world. People saying, "Is it a movie if it hasn't been on a movie screen?" So they do a limited run somewhere, so therefore it qualifies, and then they do it. Yeah, it's I think there is probably a time coming. Like we did this the other day. We've talked about the streaming services quite a bit, and we're going to get onto CNN Plus in a second. But when you stop and go, what subscriptions do I have? It can become quite terrifying. I think I got to about 9 because I do have at the moment Netflix and Disney. Disney, the reason I got Disney was it's actually really affordable. I mean, it was $100 for the whole year. And so we got it. It's not it feels like it's not a massive, I mean, it's an expense, but it's not a massive expense. And also I quite like then it's paid for, like for the next 12 months, I don't have to worry about it. So we've got Netflix and Disney Plus and Amazon Prime. And then I got given Apple TV when I got a new phone. So I got that as well. But then you go then you stop and think, oh, man, hang on a sec. I've got a New York Times. I've got a Washington Post. I've got an Audible. I pay for a YouTube Premium because of what I do for a job. And I pay for Spotify. Look, I'm at 9 already without even thinking about it. And I wonder, but the other thing is I can also get, because I mean, right or wrong, I'm happy to take criticism. I can also get all that product off Netflix or any of those things for free because there are websites to be used for, and I know how to use them, but I still choose to pay for them at the moment. But there probably will be a tipping point where one goes, this is unaffordable. In fact, it probably is now. I'm probably silly to keep the numbers that I'm going. And I wonder if there at some stage will be an amalgamation like there has been with Marvel to Disney Plus. I wonder if the next thing will be, I'm not saying this is going to happen, but Disney Plus then also picks up Netflix, or Amazon and Netflix become one, or it has to actually go down, and eventually there'll be 2 or 3 players.
The fascinating thing is they're already starting to talk about this in the US around the resurgence of cable and the resurgence of companies that collate and put things together. So if you think of Sky in New Zealand, and I don't have Sky because I decided that was the one I was going to cut because I felt it was expensive. But you're probably right. If I go back and look at all the other ones I'm paying for, Sky probably doesn't turn out to be too much
Yeah.
out of ballpark, actually. And I'd get some really good stuff. So, there is something in the States going, well, actually, maybe we've fragmented too much, and these people putting these together might be a good idea. So, yeah, you're right. I'm
I did a
scared to go through
podcast
and check how many I've got.
Yeah. I did a podcast this morning for a different product I make with Jason Gunn, and he talked about local radio, and he talked about micro broadcasting. He talked about what's big at the moment is, even if it's a low an LFM, whatever they're called, the low power frequency, or LPFM, and actually having a really targeted audience. And you see in the world of podcasting, that's what happens. The tech podcast really is only pushing at one group of people, but they have a very big audience because they go narrow and they go deep, as Mark Cuban on Shark Tank would say. Or it's the religious podcast, or it's the, and so they're quite narrow and they go quite deep. And I wonder if what's going to happen at the moment with all of these, so at the moment you can get like an NBA TV subscription if you just want to watch the basketball. You can get a rugby subscription. You can get, and Netflix seems to be a bit of a coverall. And I wonder if that has been its strength, but it will end up being its weakness. It kind of tries to be the jack of all trades to all people, and we're all starting to go, I'm a fan of Star Wars, as you said. So where can I watch Star Wars? Or I'm a fan of sci-fi, or I'm a fan of horror. Where can I watch that? I don't need all this other stuff. A bit like the problem with Sky Sport, 9, 10, 11 channels. I watch the rugby, I watch the cricket, and I watch the NBA. I don't need all the other stuff, and that might be the path forward, perhaps.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you, and I'm with you. We bought Disney Plus because it was affordable, and that's the track. I think that's the track. If you make these packages affordable and allow people to buy a smorgasbord, then they'll buy what they need. Because I'm like you with sport. I'm mainline sports, and that's where I go. But coming back to your podcast and your radio analogy, we did a webinar last year on the future of radio, and fascinating conversation with James Cridlin out of, he's in Queensland, but he's a UK person, just around the growth of community radio and exactly what you say, it's not expensive to set yourself up and you can actually broadcast. I know, for example, there's a part of the motorway, the Southern Motorway, because I have an older car with one of those, Bluetooth things you got to put in your car with the frequency to your radio. Yeah. Just because I love my car and I'm not going to replace it. And there's one part on the Southern Motorway for about 30 seconds, there's a radio station bursts in, and it's not in my first language. So I can't tell you what it is, but it's an Asian language. So there's something happening in that area, and it's obviously been there for a long time.
Very cool. Hey, let's move on to some other things I want to talk to you about, because we can't hold you up all day. Or it sounds like from the start of this conversation, Craig, I kind of go, I could talk to this guy all day. Seems fairly obvious, but we do have other things to do, and you're a busy man. CNN Plus, this must be the most embarrassing. Yes. I was trying to think this morning, what's the name of the car? I think it was launched by Ford in the 50s that they think is the biggest lemon of all times. The
Edsel.
Edsel, that's the one. CNN is obviously the Edsel of the kind of streaming world at the moment. And I had a look at this latest story. The latest story is they're actually now going to shut it down 2 days earlier than they thought. They're not even going to see out the week. And the number they've got mentioned here is $100 million into development costs. Now let's make this clear. That's development costs. That doesn't mean people who have been brought on board, like Chris Wallace specifically, who may have a $30 million contract. That's not a development cost. That's an ongoing cost. So it could easily be $200 million that they've committed to this product, which they've just basically gone, boop, delete. And they haven't even gone, boop, delete, we'll let it run out the lease. They've gone, boop, delete, oh, hang on. No, let's delete it even sooner than that. It's such an embarrassment. And it's a signal to me of mainstream media in particular really not being able to read the room. That people don't watch CNN in America. It's the biggest worldwide network, I think, but in America they don't really watch it as much as the other ones. And then they're thinking someone's going to pay to come and watch content when they don't watch the free content. But some higher up in some corner office thought it was a brilliant idea, and I guess it's now cost. I'm assuming Time Warner, even though it's now Discovery, because Discovery wouldn't have had the setup costs, a couple of $100 million off their settlement.
Yeah, and look, that's exactly what you said. They haven't read the room. I mean, you watch the news and you watch CNN for up to date, right now coverage. CNN, most people aren't going on CNN to watch a program that's been done before. And I think it was definitely the exiting CEO had this big plan in his mind that if he could get a platform like this, he would expand the viewership, and it didn't work. And they launched it. They launched it a month ago, and the numbers were not very exciting.
10,000 subscribers.
Yes, so that's nothing compared to Fox. I think have a streaming service that's 1.5 million, which is still not that very big.
No,
you know, CNN were talking about 2 million in the first year, but his strategy didn't fit with what Discovery wanted. Discovery wanted to bring just exactly what we're talking. They want CNN to be a button on their major streaming platform. So they want, all the Time Warner properties to be available. It comes back to that conversation we were just talking about. They want it to be available on one platform at one price, and you get this. You get the services. So, yeah, and it's just a story of somebody having a great idea and thinking it was a marvelous idea and pushing it through, and then the new management, they couldn't even, because of the way it works. Discovery couldn't say, well, by the way, that's not a good idea. We don't think that's a good idea. We don't want you to go down that track. So they pushed ahead and launched it. And they were late launching as well. So, yeah.
One wonders if someone was trying to leave themselves a legacy, perhaps, that they could then cling on to when it all wrapped up. I just think it's such an embarrassment. And I guess the mud is not on the face of the new owners because it was under previous management. But you talked about it. They want it to be a button. It just made me think. I've got it like a 50-inch screen about a meter that way. And I just got my remote. And if you look at my remote, if it can focus in on that, there is a Netflix button and a YouTube button on my remote. So it goes to kind of show who the market leaders are when literally on a remote control for a Sony TV, they're putting the market leaders as a direct button. Yeah. And so if I'm not saying you were saying they want a literal button, but CNN Plus is never going to be that. So what is it going to be?
Yeah. So they're looking at, there's redundancies going on. But I mean, someone like Chris Wallace, you're absolutely right, who made the call to leave Fox. I'm sure they'll find a home for him at CNN because he's such a big name. They'll use him as a draw card. And he's probably going to be the most conservative voice on CNN.
It's kind of hilarious, though, isn't it? It's like, I'm sure he doesn't give a crap. I mean, I remember when John Hawkesby kind of got screwed out of a job at TVNZ when he came back. I mean, they moved him on because I think it was Richard Long and Judy Bailey were coming back, and they had to give him a big fat $6 million payout because that was his contract. I'm sure Wallace is sitting there going, well, I can either work here a day a week and earn my $30 million, or you can just give it to me and I can go be with. I'm sure he's got grandkids, with my grandkids and my family, and we'll just enjoy life, and maybe I'll start a podcast and make hundreds of thousands of dollars. I just wanted to mention as well the Fox News thing about 1.5 million subscribers, if that's what the number is. People need to realize as well and remember, and I know this from working in nighttime radio in New Zealand, that proportionally, if there's 350 million people in America, that means you need 3.5 million people to get to 1% of the population. So that shows how small proportionally 1.5 million people are. And I know this because I remember when I was doing a little tiny mid-dawn show, it was bigger proportionally than what Bill O'Reilly's show was on Fox News per capita. Although we were very small, it just showed, even though it's very small, but that's the monolith that's in America. If you can get, less than 1%, you can still monetize that significantly and make a lot of money. So
yeah, it's true.
Hey, let's chuck this one up there. There's two more things to get through, and I don't want to. I'm going to use too much of your time, although I'm very much enjoying speaking to you, Craig. As this is news, almost breaking news, just out today. Apple now lets you. It's going to let people buy parts, so they can fix your iPhone. For a long time, Apple has been a closed system, and they basically have said if you touch our phones beyond the external buttons, you're avoiding the warranty, and we can actually do things from head office to stop your phone from working. Tesla's a bit like that with their cars as well. But they've just released today that you are now going to be able to buy, I think it's up to 200 parts and and tools customers can use to repair the iPhone 12, 13, and third generation SE, which I think is interesting. I mean, I have a pair of Beats headphones, which is also owned by Apple, and I took them and it had a broken hinge on the side, and they told me it was going to, if I wanted to get that part for it, it was going to cost me $400. And I said, but hang on, these headphones are only worth about that. And they were like, yep. But I just need a hinge. And they're like, yeah, that's what it costs to repair. We'll send them off and get them repaired, and it'll be $400. And I'm like, so what you're saying is these go in the bin, I buy a new pair of your product? And the person behind the counter, to their credit, who wasn't an Apple employee but an authorized dealer, was like, yep, that's pretty much what you do. So it's and I've already had a look. There's no Beats hinges in there for me to fix my headphones, which I've still got. But there are plenty of parts coming out at the start of this right to repair movement.
Yeah, as a movement, it's a huge movement, particularly in States and in Europe, and the European regulators. It's really why Apple has come through, because the European regulators were getting onto this, and they were making, they were going to instigate this right to repair. I mean, you've got to remember that up to about the iPhone 6 or 7, I can't remember when they put the touch button on it, you could almost buy new screens off Trade Me, and if you had a mate who was any good at taking things apart, he could replace your screen. But then it got tricky, and then you had to go and find a repairer who could actually do it, and then pay them to do it. So this changes it again, and I personally think it's a great move. I think it's something that anybody, once you own a device, it's your device, you should be able to do what you need to do to fix it. And so all power to them. I mean, it's they've been forced to it. They'll say they haven't, but they have been by regulators, or the threat of regulation. And TUANZ, we know all about the threat of regulation and what a great tool it is to help drive changes in the market. And this is just another one of those ones. So as you can tell, I'm not actually in the Apple ecosystem at the moment, but I do move in and out of it. So.
Right. But like your Netflix subscription, moving in and out again of it there.
Yeah.
Hey, Craig, just one more thing. And I know we said we were going to be 10 or 15 minutes. Hopefully you've got a couple more minutes to wrap up with. Of course, we've got to talk about Elon Musk and Twitter. What's happening here? There's stories every day. So I've just really pulled this out as a headline. But Elon Musk wants to authenticate all real humans on Twitter, whatever the feck that means. But he's going to authenticate all real humans. So I guess that means everyone's got a blue check mark now. And I noticed, I have to say, love or hate what he's doing, he's got a unique sense of humor.
Yeah.
If people didn't see this yesterday, he tweeted out and said, next time I'm going to buy Coca-Cola to put the cocaine back in. And there was another one, I don't know if this was him or someone else, but he said, now I'm going to buy McDonald's and fix all the ice cream machines. So love him or hate him, think he's an evil neoliberal or whatever he is, there's something, in my opinion, quite endearing about his kind of, I cannot think of another way to say it, but a kind of just go fuck yourself attitude, where he just basically is like, I'm doing this and this is what I'm doing, and I know a lot of people have a problem about it, but here's a joke I'm going to make about it. There's something about that's a little bit endearing to me. Yeah.
Well, the man has a golden touch. I mean, Tesla, you talked about Tesla earlier, they had their best ever quarter just recently in the face of huge supply chain issues. They made more cars in the last quarter than they ever made. And some of the stuff I read the other day, they've paid down all their debt. So he's got money. Tesla's got money to burn, to spend on their own development. And SpaceX, look at what he's doing with SpaceX. So now he's turning his view to Twitter. The issue that he has is he's starting to play in too many places, where is his interest and where is his focus really going to be? And I've heard various things about him taking over Twitter. Some he'll make a decent change, because exactly what it said on that article, he will try and get rid of the bots and the trolls. That's what he thinks he can do. And then you've got these others that talk about he's going to just open it back up to being full of hate speech, misogyny, all those sorts of things. I don't know if you read earlier in the week the idea that he might even let Trump back onto Twitter. Now, Donald Trump has said no, and Donald Trump has his own platform, which he's
used once this year.
Yes, I read that too. I thought if it was your platform, you'd really be pushing it, wouldn't you? Yeah.
I think what Trump will be doing is mentioning his thing again, and then what he'll try and do is flick it on, and then he'll get straight. If anyone believes, if Trump's not invited back on Twitter to his about 60 million followers, he won't be there in a heartbeat. Then you're living in a dream world. He will be there in a heartbeat, and it'll be the worst thing that ever happened to the Republican Party. Not that this is a political conversation, Craig, but if Trump gets back on, it'll be the worst thing to happen to the Republican Party. And I hear word around from listening to various commentators that Republican, commentators and advisors are all doing their darndest to keep him off for obvious reasons.
Twitter is an interesting beast, isn't it? Because it's not the biggest social media platform. In fact, it's not the biggest by far. Meta the Meta platforms are definitely the biggest, but it has all these influential people, and it has a lot of politicians, the media, and celebrities, and they all follow each other, and that's where you get the ecosystem working. So what Elon Musk does with Twitter does actually count. And I don't know if I think you might be going to talk about it later, but he also tweeted this morning that he's going to make it politically neutral, so therefore he's going to, excuse my language, he's going to piss off the far left and the far right, which is okay. I don't quite understand how that's going to work, but hey, see how you go.
We did talk about this bit yesterday, and I said I'm going to roll in after I've said thanks to you to a bit of a political commentary thing, but you can't have a politically neutral platform. It's not possible, and B, you don't, if you piss off the far left and far right equally, if one of those positions is harmful and dangerous and makes up 1% of the population, you don't need to give it even. Giving it even volume does not make a democracy. It actually projects a very minor, small, potentially dangerous view into the atmosphere like it has more validity than it does. So it's, I mean, like, as you say, he seems to have a Midas touch. So who am I to criticize him? But it's a bit of it's either a naive comment or it's very calculated to make it look like he's going to be neutral, when actually those two things you can't do and you shouldn't do. Anyway,
it'll be fascinating. It's got 6 months to land the deal before he actually gets control. So we'll see how it goes.
Well, Craig Young from TUANZ, thank you. I've kept you far longer than I said I was going to. Hopefully that was worked out for your timetabling. It's been a great pleasure to talk to you. Thank you very much for joining us today. And there's the TUANZ website again. And hopefully we'll touch base again one time soon. I very much enjoyed our conversation.
Thank you, Pat. Much appreciated.
All right. All the best, Craig. Craig Young from TUANZ there.